I moped, I drank, I sailed. I went deep down underwater. While the Zaka was anchored at Mallorca, I bet a friend, Emmanuel Cervantes, I'll dive off the cross trees of my ship. It was the kind of bet you would make if you weren't exactly stone cold sober. The Zaka's mast is 110 feet high. It doesn't look like much when you look up, but when you're aloft the deck, below looks small like a sardine. The height is equivalent to 10 or 11 stories of a Manhattan building. When you're up there and the mast sways, you hang on like death. Unless you've climbed a mast, you can have no idea of the anticipation, the fear, and sometimes the terror to get up that rig. No idea what it is to go up and examine some blocks which might be a danger to the ship's safety. But if you're the captain, you have to put up a front. I'll go aloft and take a look myself. You could look up from the deck with the binoculars and see the same damn thing, but you have to prove yourself. Emmanuel pooh-poohed my drunken suggestion that I would dive off the cross trees. Impossible, Flynn, I said casually. For $1,000, I'll do it tonight. There were people around listening to this bravado. I may have had a quart of vodka in me. $1,000? He echoed. Agreed. You're on. Now I was confronted with this awful thing. Just because I didn't like this guy and wanted to take some of his dough. I was hooked. I had to do it. I put the glass down. Using the old tactic of stalling while you think, I got my valet and I sent him down to the engine room for some grease. I said, put a mat on the deck. I don't want to get it greasy. I hoped I wore a fairly easy smile, as if it was a cinch. I said, cover me with grease, because if I go in the water from that high, I don't want to break my skin. Cervantes watched the operation. Of course, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I was stalling like a financial wizard. Now bring up the rubber hole slippers, because when I go up on the top, I don't want to cut my feet on the rig. Ah, yes, another thing. I think I will wear a sweatshirt. This was taking a lot of time, while crewmen took care of these details. I looked up at the cross trees from time to time, as if assaying the wind, or how I would jump. By the way, bring me a little brandy. Anybody else care for a little brandy or anything? How the hell did I get into this? Then, nonchalantly, I said, take the grease off. I'll just wear the sweatshirt. It was getting darker. The bet was on, heavier than ever. Cervantes stood around and looked. I was hoping the fellow would think it over 100 times. All of this was a war of nerves. Cervantes said, you're not really going to do that. Of course I am. Give me the thin white sweatshirt. You're going in head first? What do you expect me to do? Go in feet first? What do you want to do? Pull out the bet? No, Flynn. Then put up or shut up. I turned to the crew. Come on, boys. Let's get this over with. I pulled off my shoes, taking much time. I said, ready? Here we go, boys. And I began the slowest climb up the rig that sea annals have ever known. I got about 40 feet, and Emmanuel's on deck, looking up, and the others all craned their necks, watching me go up foot by foot, slow step by step. Now Cervantes yelled up, Errol, you don't want to do this? You'll hurt yourself. What's that? I called down, as if I didn't hear. He howled up to the sky. Why don't you settle? I shouted down, what for? And I took a few more steps. I was near the top. I screamed down, are you kidding? I was nearly at the cross trees, and my heart swayed like the mast. He cupped his hands and offered up the rope line. Why don't you settle for half? I roared down, booked. You've got a deal. Nobody ever hit the deck quicker. I still thank God he offered to settle for half before I made the jump, because I would have had to do it. I was skin diving off the coast of Spain, of the Balearics. I was skin diving off the coast of Spain, off the Balearics. I was with one of the most skillful divers I ever met, Paul Buttles. He is a one-legged fellow, a great athlete. We knew of the existence of a sunken ship off these islands. Buttles went far down, and he saw a huge ancient leaden anchor. He figured there must be a ship somewhere around. He came up and told me. Then we went down together. In making a foray like that, you use what is called an underwater sled. This is a device which lets you cover a lot of territory. You board this contrivance from a launch. The sled operates so that by making huge circles, which diminish in size, you can do much exploration as the circle narrows. Inside that circle, you may spot something. If you do, you surface and place a marker over what you think you've seen. Then you make your descents at that point. Buttles and I were searching for days in this area without finding the ship. Meantime, as we explored, we ran out of fresh meat and relied on the fish we caught. Many fish of a variety called the meru, a delicious groper fish, were deep down in the water hereabouts, and I went for one this day. I was down about 100 feet, and I saw a big one weighing perhaps 40 pounds. I took a shot at him and missed. Off he went, downwards. I saw him disappear below into a hole. I should have looked at the gauge on my wrist to see how far below I was, but I didn't. I went down, peered into the hole. There, in the darkness, I could see the movement of gills. I figured if I could edge my way down there quietly, I could get a shot at him. I worked my way very quietly, because if you touched a tank against a rock, the fish would take off. It was like going down a chimney. The tunnel I was going through was about big enough to admit my body with the tanks. I got closer. As I was about to pull the trigger, he gave a swish of his tail, whipped up the sand on the ocean floor, and was gone. I was now 150 feet down, the deepest I had ever been. As the sand settled, I saw what might have been bits of lead or some other metal or substance, not looking like rock or weed. I paddled my flippers, went down a few feet, picked up the shiny pieces. I looked at my wrist gauge. It said 42 meters. I felt my air getting short. I pulled the emergency on the air tank. There was a wonderful fresh flow of air. I had 3, at most 4 minutes between me and the surface. But I had grown faint, or engrossed, or slowed. I didn't know at the time that I was upside down. I felt a bit of blood in my mouth. I'd gone too deep, too fast in the tunnel. I felt a little drunk. A fish passed by. I wanted to give him a cigar, but I had none. Then I wanted to take my mouthpiece off and give that to him. Changes were taking place in my metabolism. I was experiencing the rhapsody of the depths, a dangerous thing because it may be the last rhapsody you'll hear. You're drunk. Your metabolism is awry. You do not know whether you are right side up or where you are. It's like having a shot of dope in you. You have to get out of that, or you're done for. I wiggled my way out of the tunnel, like a snake backing out of a hole. I didn't want to go up too fast, but my head was ringing as if a steel band were around it. You have to be in particular training to dive down to even 2/3 of this depth, and I was not. I had been training regularly on a quart of vodka a day, and it didn't help. Up I came, like a speck at the surface. I didn't know how much emergency air was left, and I hurried. My hand went over the gunwale of the launch, and I tossed into it the things I held in my hand. I was pulled into the boat, and I lay there exhausted. The items I had emerged with were broken bits of porphyry, shattered but still painted so that the centuries hadn't done as much damage as you might suppose. We were excited. We decided to go down there again and have a further look, but not me. Buttles and a French boy we had with us went down, scooped up the sand in the spot where I had been, and they came up with a half-dozen curious little art bits, which I still have in Jamaica. Among the items was an almost perfectly preserved little Phoenician head done in some material that had outlasted many centuries. At the Spanish Museum, this and the others were identified as Phoenician carvings, in age probably 3 or 4 centuries before Christ. The reason they had not been crushed by the ocean was that the cave I had gone into had protected these bits from current. I was petrified about having to take them out of Spain, because in Spain you might get off with a life sentence for murder, but try taking art objects out there and you might get shot.